is back, and we're taking it back to the basics. That's B2TB. This curriculum-based season will shine a light on public education surrounding civics, community organizing, and trending topics. Guys, it's consulting time back to the basics. It's supporting the transformation of cultures and subcultures while building self-sufficiency and generating collective impact. Remember, purpose over popularity is always and will always be our motto. Tune in to It's Consulting Time back to the basics every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to be on all platforms: YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and you can even catch a few clips on Instagram. It's Consulting Time back to the basics with your girl Lily Mae. See you there. Hey guys, it's the social side. The revitalization of It's Consulting Time is back, and we're taking it back to the basics. That's B2TB. This curriculum-based season will shine a light on public education surrounding civics, community organizing, and trending topics. Guys, it's consulting time back to the basics. It's supporting the transformation of cultures and subcultures while building self-sufficiency and generating collective impact. Remember, purpose over popularity is always and will always be our motto. Tune in to It's Consulting Time back to the basics every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to be on all platforms: YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and you can even catch a few clips on Instagram. It's Consulting Time back to the basics with your girl Lily Mae. See you there. Hey guys, it's the social side. The revitalization of It's Consulting Time is back, and we're taking it back to the basics. That's B2TB. This curriculum-based season will shine a light on public education surrounding civics, community organizing, and trending topics. Guys, it's consulting time back to the basics. It's supporting the transformation of cultures and subcultures while building self-sufficiency and generating collective impact. Remember, purpose over popularity is always and will always be our motto. Tune in to It's Consulting Time back to the basics every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to be on all platforms: YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and you can even catch a few clips on Instagram. It's Consulting Time back to the basics with your girl Lily Mae. See you there. Hey guys, it's the social side. The revitalization of It's Consulting. Wade in the water. Wade in the water, children, wade in the water. God's gonna trouble the water. Wade in the water. Wade in the water, children. Wade in the water. God's gonna trouble the water. Hey guys! Well, it's consulting time. Back to the basics. So, guys, let me set the tone for the evening. Now, you're probably wondering what's going on here. So, as you can see, tonight we're talking about the traditionalist generation. And I am so excited and so blessed to have been born to two traditionalist parents. And so, in honor of that, I am wearing, y'all know y'all grandmamas and great grandmamas had that old flower house coat. Well, this evening, I am honoring my grandmother, my mother, and my dad through attire and the pearls, symbolizing that sophistication, that respect for authority, that respect for self, and things of that nature. And so, I just first and foremost want to set the tone for what you should expect this season, right? If you're looking for influencers, celebrities, and all of that, you just gonna have to wait until I get back on my Instagram live, because that's not where I am. The purpose of It's Consulting Time, Back to the Basics, is to give you information, right? Give you information, give you education, provide you with things that you can hold on to, provide you with things that you can give to your offspring, things that you can give to your partner, things that you can give to your friends, to provide you with substance to support building your self-sufficiency and transforming cultures and subcultures therewith. And so I'm excited, guys. I'm excited to be back with you and taking you back to the basics. And so this is a public education component. And I will host subject matter experts from time to time. And those individuals will provide you with empirical data and analysis. And those things are necessary to truly support generating collective impact. Also, I want y'all to know y'all can call in. And how do you call in? Well, I'm going to let you know. You call in by, if you, depending on what platform you're on, you should be able to click the link. But that's how you call in. So you can actively be a part of the broadcast. And so basically you'll just click the link. And when I let you in, I'll let you backstage. You let me know, if you have an opinion, or if you just want to take part in the comments. I will be, monitoring the comments and truly embracing whatever it is that you would like to say or respond to. So guys, tonight is the beginning of It's Consulting Time, Back to the Basics. And so for the month of September, we're going to talk about generations. Now, why are we talking about generations? Why is this important? What is a generation? Well, it's important that we talk about the generations, because this is what happens. We have grown through so many things as a community, right? Now, when I say a community, I'm not just talking about Black people. I'm talking about collectively. I'm talking about in the world. Now, when I talk about the generations, I more or less will possibly talk a lot about our culture, because that's the only culture that I can speak to and have experience with. However, I am going to define cultures and subcultures within our culture. So we're going to talk about race. We're going to talk about class. We're going to talk about gender. We're going to talk about regions. We're going to talk about families. We're going to talk about religion and a whole lot of other things, because there are some broad generalizations that affect each generation. So this week, we are going to talk about the traditionalist generation. And so you're going to see me kind of checking a whole bunch of different devices so I can make sure I'm not missing anybody's comments. But first we have to ask, what is a generation? So what do you guys think a generation is? And I want you to, drop the comments, share the live, share the broadcast, invite people, because we really want to, have this conversation and legitimately have input, because I want you to know that your respective opinion, worldview, and perspective matters. Okay. So you had a little bit of time to think about it. So the best definition of what a generation is an identifiable group of people, right? That shares birth years, age, location, and significant life events, right? At critical development stages. Now, I'm not going to go too deep into the stages of development, because when we get to go in there, all these other things, come into play. And so I don't want to get too clinical. I want to keep this surface, but also specialized. And so, one important caveat in kind of using a generational lens is that a precise definition of each generation just doesn't really exist. I mean, there's no, isolated authority that says that baby boomers were born in certain years, or anything like that. So, I want you to understand that what I've done is I've kind of studied the generations, went through a multitude of scholarly resources. And so I kind of want to let you know a little bit about the traditionalist bracket. Okay. So, for all intents and purposes, this week, while we're talking about the traditionalist generations, we're going to talk about those individuals who were born between 1900 and 1945. Now, from 1901 to 1924, you had what was called the greatest generation, right? And then from 1925 to 1945, you had what was called the silent generation. Okay. We're going to talk about these generations, because as we begin to talk about these generations, guys, I hope that it kind of helps you understand a little bit more about what etiquette was, and probably and still should be. It's going to also kind of open your mind to morals and values, and why there are so many conflicting values. It's also going to help you understand a little bit about political parties and how political parties shifted and transformed down through the years. And we're not going to get into that, because that's for October and November. But I want you to understand that etiquette, morals, values, and social media presentation, validation, and authentication is going to come through these discussions of generations. Okay, so in order to understand generations, you got to understand waves. And every generation has the first wave and the second wave. So that first wave, of course, is your older cohort, and your second wave is the younger cohort. Now, we know, each wave is going to have slightly different traits, because they were raised by the parents of two generations, possibly. So, like I told you, we have the greatest generation from 1901 to 1924, but then we have that silent generation, born from 1925 to 1945. And so we're going to get into a little bit about that. But let's just talk about the traditionalists. So, guys, let me tell you something. Do you know that the traditionalist generation has been deemed the wealthiest generation? Absolutely. And those of you that are hearing this, just forget about money. Forget about money. Think about wealth in terms of the things that aren't tangible, the things that you can't put your hands on, the things that you can't buy. Respect for authority, tradition, great one-on-one interpersonal skills. Guys, the traditionalists, that wealthy generation, the reason they're the wealthiest generation, because they were a generation of people who had nothing, who had no rights, who really didn't even know who they were, but they knew whose they were. And because they knew whose they were wealthy. That's why we're so poor now, because a lot of us, we don't know who we are. We chasing money. We chasing the bag. We want to get to the bag. This generation wasn't doing that. They had strong work ethic, right? And the reason they had strong work ethic is because that's all they knew. They valued stability. They valued safety, security, consistency, commitment. All of these civic minded, servitude oriented things. The wealthiest generation, the traditionalist generation, they embody. And guess what? It's a lot of the traditionalists still living today in great health. Why? Because they valued stability, they valued safety, they valued security, consistency, and commitment. Now, traditionalists like to be recognized for their hard work. So this is when we start talking about a little bit about kind of how, the generations intersect. Interestingly, this generation, the greatest generation and the silent generation that make up this traditionalist generation, they saw work as a team effort and they worked hard to avoid conflict. Do y'all understand? Now, a lot of them seeing work as a team effort definitely does have its roots in slavery because, during that time, that's what was going on. So it definitely does have its roots, in slavery. So, we definitely want to acknowledge that, right? But the level of loyalty and the level of respect that this generation exudes and exhibits is immaculate. Now, let's talk a little bit about, who they actually were, though. These were the people that grew up during the Great Depression and World War II. Now, they either fought in World War II or were children, of World War II, servicemen and things of that nature. And a lot of their behaviors were based upon experiences during the Depression. Now let's go there. Let's just talk about that a little bit. Because see, this generation encompassed a lot of tragedy, guys. Like, okay, did y'all know? Okay, y'all know I'm gonna go off on some tangents. Did y'all know that sliced bread was invented in 1928? That was cool when I was, going back through and trying to research. Sliced bread was invented in 1928. I just thought that was kind of cool. But nevertheless, the stock market. The stock market crashed in 1929. The stock market crashed in 1929. So that was Great Depression. Prohibition ended in like 1933, I think it was. And let me tell you what's so interesting. This and this speaks to the importance of why you need to understand the generations. Prohibition ended in 1933 and Alcoholics Anonymous was founded in 1935. But I bet you would not know that George Washington was growing marijuana as a cash crop in Virginia in the late 1800s, early 1900s. And there was something called the Harrison Act of 1914. That was the first time that taxes were imposed on illicit drugs. So I want you to really think about all of this stuff as it relates to this generation, but I also want you to open your minds and think about what's going on in the world now, because you need to understand this history to understand why we're dealing with the things that we're going through now. And then in 1945, the United States dropped the atomic bomb. So those are just some things I want you to really think about relative to this generation we're talking about. Okay, now, also with this generation, we know men typically worked while women stayed at home to raise children. It's not much difference in what a lot of women want to do now. They don't want to work. But see, it was a difference. Traditionalist women took on the role of being a caretaker. They took on the role of really not being equal, right? Because realistically, and we're going to get into when, women began to gain more rights and things of that nature. But during this time period, that's really, women had a place, and it was at home with the children and in the kitchen. You might not like it, but remember, we're talking about at 1900s to 1945. Anybody born before 1946. And also, it's so interesting during this time period, one of their largest lobbyist groups was AARP. And I think that's so crazy, guys, because y'all know AARP still exists today. And I think you got to be like 55 to get some life insurance through them. So I'm just saying. But about 55 million people today are traditionalists. About 55 million people today are traditionalists. And I really want you to think about it, because there are more traditionalists living today than Generation Xers. So I want you to do your own research and figure out when Generation Xers were born, because there are more traditionalists living today, and they're also the largest voting population. Now, consequently, there are more millennials and baby boomers in the population than traditionalists, but traditionalists are the largest voting population. Something's wrong with that picture. But anyway, all right. So, why are traditionalists, so important? Why do we need to understand them and embody some of the things that they, yielded the world? Well, their behaviors were based on experiences from the Great Depression. They were striving for financial security, and they had a waste not, want not attitude, right? Now, they conformed, to the times, and they were conservative. But one of the things that I think I love about this particular generation is that they had traditional family values. You know, they embodied and they embraced family. They understood that you need family, right? Integrity, responsibility. Traditionalists don't really, they're not big on conflict. Traditionalists generally deal with conflict behind closed doors. So you know how y'all get on the social media and y'all yapping, going back and forth, going back and forth. We all do it or have done it. They wouldn't do that. They wouldn't do that. This isn't a group that, you know, throws someone under the bus to get ahead. This group of people legitimately believed in waiting your turn, and then you will be rewarded. you know so that's just a little bit, and we're gonna dive in a little bit more, but I think that setting the tone with understanding those tenets of the generations is extremely important, because what's happening is, you know we are really struggling, right? We're struggling as a people because everybody want to be seen, everybody want to be validated, everybody need authentication, everybody want to be verified. But the thing about it is, who is truly in power or authority, or has the actual proof to verify and authenticate you on this screen? World War II, Great Depression, little to no technology, very beginning of TV. And guys, TV had minimal impact back then. Do y'all know that relative to social media, this generation of people went from almost in existing use in 2005 to still only 4% in 2008, and now not even 20% of these people currently use like a lot of digital technology. And honestly, at first I was like, well, it's hard for them to learn it. It doesn't mean anything to them. Stability, hard work, patience, patriotism, those are the things that this generation is so eloquently founded on and what they care about. So social media and validation and all of these things just really don't matter to them. So, I thought that was really interesting. So as we began to talk more about the generations, understanding that this generation embodies the nobility of sacrifice for the common good, right? And so they're once again very loyal. They possess superb interpersonal skills, guys. Superb interpersonal skills. Yes, Angela, you're right. Priorities, they definitely do differ because they measure work ethic on timeliness, productivity, and not drawing attention to yourself. Y'all out here, the more attention you draw, you really think you the plug just because somebody know you next door. They might not know you across the street, but just because they know you next door, you really think you somebody. And also, this generation believed that children were seen and not heard. And now these kids just doing some of everything, all kinds of unseemly things. But right now, your traditionalists are between, I want to say, the ages of, look, let's see if I can do this good math in my head. They're between the ages of 83, no, about 78 and 123. So your traditionalists now, if you're between the ages of 78 and 123, you're considered a traditionalist. Now, some people call them the forgotten generation, radio babies, veterans, but I like traditionalists because they set the tone for so many different things. Interestingly, during that time, there was a rise of corporations in the space age because industrialization, started to low key develop. And so I think that what's so interesting too about this generation is that um, they experienced hard times while growing up, but those hard times were still followed by times of prosperity. And because of that, that traditionalist generation, hands down to me, they are the wealthiest generation. They are the wealthiest generation. They have discipline. They didn't question authority. They believed in duty before pleasure, family focus, and giving back was so important to them. Giving back was important for the traditionalist generation because they gave behind closed doors. Nobody had to know they were giving. This day and time, everybody wants you to know, oh, I'm giving to the less fortunate. Why you got your Chanel and your Gucci and all of that on, you giving to the less fortunate? Because you want to be seen. You want people to know that you're doing this. The traditionalist generation, they literally believed in the patriotism and patience and respect and responsibility. And you know what? They trusted government. That's probably one of the things that we'll definitely kind of get into a little bit more. Now, as far also that generation, traditionalists and Generation X are pretty confident. That's something that's shared across those generations. Confident, conservative. They knew how to do more with less. They knew how to do more with less, and ethics. Ethics were very important, and ethics were important in every generation up until the millennials. I don't know what the hell wrong with y'all. I'm one of y'all, but I'm not one of y'all. I just don't know. I don't know what happened. Um, honor. Honor meant a lot to them, right? They were organized. They had rules of conduct, and there was a lot of sacrifice associated with this traditionalist generation. And I think that that's important. because obedience is indeed better than sacrifice. And I do believe that because a lot of these people were obedient, a lot of them are still living today to tell the story. Those traditionalists, they're living longer. We're dying. And we have to ask ourselves, why? Why are we dying? What's happening? So, I think that as we move through these weeks, and we have about 10 more minutes, and then we're going to wind it up. But as we move through these weeks, I think it's utterly important that we really stop and think about what it is that we want to know, right? What it is that we want to understand, what it is that we need, right? Why are we functioning the way that we're functioning? Why is it that we're dying, but the people that are between the ages of 78 and 123 are still living, thriving without a care in the world? I'm going to take a stab at it, and I'm going to say it's because they had respect for authority, they had respect for tradition, and they had great one-on-one interpersonal skills. They valued stability, safety, security, consistency, and commitment. Guys, it's consulting time. Back to the basics, and during the month of September, we're going to talk about generations, and we're going to talk about how the generations have changed, what changed, how different generations work together. What Drea, Nicole, you are exactly right. They valued life. They valued life. Absolutely. So, as we matriculate through this curriculum-based season of It's Consulting Time, guys, I'm so excited because you are going to get an opportunity to truly learn about everything from the traditions, generations. We're going to talk about politics and policy, civic participation and responsibility. Then we're going to talk about restoring leadership and submission without competition. And guys, you're even going to get a chance to give your input on what we can do to reform our criminal justice system relative to sentencing guidelines, rehabilitative measures to get our guys from going into prison and keeping them supervised in the community. Guys, it's consulting time. It's going back to the basics. It's consulting time. It's going back to how it was founded and what it was started for. And it wasn't started to be seen and to be visible and to be popular. It was started to be purposeful. And so, as I always say to my loved ones and my friends, be prayerful, be vigilant, and be watchful. It's consulting time. Back to the basics. Guys, it's been amazing talking to you, and we will see you next week. Time is back, and we're taking it back to the basics. That's B2TB. This curriculum-based season will shine a light on public education surrounding civics, community organizing, and trending topics. Guys, it's consulting time. Back to the basics. It's supporting the transformation of cultures and subcultures while building self-sufficiency and generating collective impact. Remember, purpose over popularity is always and will always be our motto. Tune in to It's Consulting Time. Back to the basics every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to be on all platforms: YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and you can even catch a few clips on Instagram. It's Consulting Time. Back to the basics with your girl Lily Mae. See you there.